Thank you for joining me on another episode of She Leads Now podcast, where we help career and entrepreneurial women gain the tools to develop a success mindset, create winning strategies, build collaborative relationships, and take bold action towards creating impact and fulfillment in their lives and careers. I'm your host, Sabine Gideon, and I'm on a mission to awaken and activate women and emerging leaders so they can tap into their innate leadership ability, elevate their influence, and create the impact they were destined to make. If you're ready to uplevel your confidence, courage, and influence, you've come to the right place. Join me weekly for insights, strategies, and resources to help you grow, develop, and embody the leader you were meant to be, so that you can make the impact you know you are called to make and establish the legacy you've always dreamed. The world eagerly awaits the emergence of your brilliance, impact, and influence. So with that, let's dive into this week's episode. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of She Leads Now. I am your host, Sabine Gideon, and I am thrilled to be bringing another episode of the podcast to you today. Today is going to be another Just Us episode, and it is actually on one of my favorite topics. You guessed it. Networking. However, there's a plot twist. We're going to be talking about networking in the context of relationship marketing. And I'm going to be breaking down what relationship marketing is and how you can begin to apply it to build solid relationships that, open doors for you and for others. And so, as I've learned over the last couple of years, there is this natural aversion that many have when they hear the word networking. And I totally get it. I imagine that, when people hear, and even sometimes when I hear the word networking, right, it takes me to the image of an overly large conference room. Everyone has a name tag. And the people are handing out, business cards. And then you're getting the questions of, what do you do? And, what company do you work with? And you're quickly trying to remember your 30, 45, or 60-second elevator pitch. While that may have been the experience of many, including yours truly, I totally get it. Networking events and the word networking can be uncomfortable for many of us, and especially for women who aren't looking to force their services or products, down the throats of the people who are in the room. That's why today I want to talk to you about how networking is changing and how relationship marketing is taking place. And especially given the virtual space that we're in, or even call it a hybrid space that we're in, we are starting to see, or have been seeing, the shift in how people network and how people build relationships. So let's first define what is relationship marketing, because that is the term that you're going to hear from me moving forward instead of, or in place of, the word networking, because I do think that in this space that we're in, that it still requires the same level of intentionality, but not to get your, business card across or your elevator speech across, but to really begin to be intentional about building relationships. So let's define it in super technical terms. Let's start there. Relationship marketing is the creation and distribution of value through mutual cooperation and interdependence. Yeah, that's a mouthful. In non-business textbook terms, however, relationship marketing is simply how you build relationships and connections with people that can build your reach, your authority, and even your revenue. That's a lot more humanistic and simplistic, if you ask me. Now, before I go into details around how to actually apply it and to execute it, let's first examine what relationship marketing is not. And so relationship marketing is not the mindset of, I'll do this for you if you do this for me. Remember, the key word here is relationship. And no one wants to feel used. No one likes to feel manipulated. No one wants to feel like you're trying to get something from them and you're only giving something because that's what your intention is. Think about relationship marketing in the sense of cultivating deeper, more meaningful relationships with your peers or others in your industry or your ideal clients and or your customers. So in short, relationship marketing, in my opinion, is something that I think that we as women are naturally great at. And why are we great at building relationships or relationship marketing? Think about it. If we need something or if we're looking for a service, whether it's our nails, our hair, a place to go shopping, whatever it is, right? We always have a list of things that we're readily available to share. Think about when we meet some stranger or when we see some stranger and we just compliment them on, whatever it is that they're wearing or their shoes or whatever the case may be. What's our natural tendency? Our natural tendency is to say, "Oh my gosh, thank you. I got it at such and such store." Or, this is the person that I would recommend if you're interested in this, right? We naturally have this ability to connect with individuals and to, just share our experiences without the intention of trying to sell anyone anything. So I know those are real basic examples, but I just want to highlight how, this is a natural superpower that we as women have and that we exercise and may not always think about it in the sense of relationship marketing or in terms of being intentional about connecting and building deeper relationships with people. And so as we think about relationship marketing and how to actually execute it, I just want to give you some real quick tips around how you can leverage relationship marketing within your business, how you can leverage it, within your organization, how you can begin to just embody someone who is that super connector, who does build relationships, who is someone that people think about or draw on because of your approach to building relationships. First and foremost, think of how you can help someone else. For those of us who are business owners, we are constantly in situations and environments where we have the opportunity to build relationships. And that's whether we are on social media, that's whether or not we're running a campaign for our business. That's whether we're leveraging a podcast and inviting guests onto our shows. We have a multitude of things that we are experiencing and doing naturally that allow us to build relationships with others. The thing that I would advise here is as you're being intentional in building relationships with individuals, that you go in it with a mindset of, I want to give, I want to add value to this other person's, life, this other person's business, whatever it is. And so I'm a big advocate for reaching out to strangers that I don't know on LinkedIn and asking them to do a virtual coffee so that I can learn more about them. In those moments, my intentions there are never to sell them anything, right? Because most of the time, the people that I'm reaching out to be quite honest with you, aren't my ideal clients. They are individuals who are either in the coaching space or they focus on leadership or they focus on organizations. And so for me, I want to know who is operating in the same space that I'm at for several different reasons, whether that be, bringing them onto the podcast, whether that be, sharing resources, or whether that be, supporting each other and growing our businesses. So for me, when I'm having these virtual coffees, the focus here is really to listen. The intent is to listen to what that person has going on in their lives. What do they do? What are they passionate about? What are some of the things that they have as far as goals for their business in the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year? What tools are they applying in their organization or looking to apply in their organization? And as I'm listening, I'm thinking for myself, who do I know? What resource can I refer them to? Or how can I support them in advancing whatever goal it is that they have? And so I never end my conversation, whether it's someone I know and have known for a while, or whether it's someone that, I reach out to on LinkedIn because I saw a post or, because I wanted to connect with them. I don't end the call without asking, how can I support you? Now, granted, most of the time, I already know how I want to support that person because I've listened to what they've told me. But I'm also curious if there's something unique or something special when I shared what it is that I do that they're interested in. So always go into the conversation with the mindset of I want to give, right? And so I'm going to listen, I'm going to pay attention, and I'm going to be intentional about identifying how I can support this person in, again, achieving a goal, moving forward, introducing them to someone who is possibly in your network. The other thing that I would say when it comes to relationship marketing, obviously, I gave you the example of, when I'm meeting new people or trying to cultivate a relationship with someone new. But I'd also take a step back and say, identify who you know first. I was listening to something not too long ago, and they shared that there is a study that showed that we, on average, know about 600 people. So each individual person knows about 600 people. So if you think about that, right, in the context of my 600 people, they each know 600 people, and those people each know 600 people. And so that creates like this web, if you will, of individuals who are in your network. And just think about LinkedIn. For those of you who are active users on LinkedIn, you look at your first connections, your second connections, your third connections. And so the more people that you are able to engage with, the more access, if you will, or the more possibility you have to engage with people you don't already know. But for the sake of this particular tip, I would say start with the people that you know. If in fact we do all know about 600 people, that's 600 opportunities to have conversations. That's 600 opportunities to add value into other people's lives. Now, I wouldn't recommend, going out and trying to connect with all 600 people in a week or even a month for that matter. But I would advise you that, if you are at a place where you have the capacity, you have the availability. I believe that, we should constantly be looking to build relationships, especially as business owners. Tap into your current network or tap into your current relationship opportunities. We'll call them that. So, leveraging LinkedIn, again, you can go in and you can look at the people that you're connected to as first degrees. Maybe there are individuals that you worked with at a previous company that you haven't touched base with in a while, or you had employees who have, since transitioned into new roles at different companies that you just want to keep in touch with. What I would advise here is that, you just kind of make it a regular habit, whether that's daily, whether that's weekly. I wouldn't say go more than monthly, but just make it a regular habit and create the cadence of reaching out to individuals in your network. Again, not for anything, but to just check in on them, see what's happening, see what's going on. Engage with whatever goals or whatever opportunities they may be working with, and provide value to the extent that you can, or at the least, if you can, introduce them to someone who can help support whatever focus that they're currently working on. The other thing that I would say here, as far as, focusing on who you know first, is that, while we're often told that we need to go to big conferences or really structured networking events, the truth is many of us as women are really good at making connections on a one-on-one basis. So with that, I would encourage you to be intentional about building a community of other women, of other entrepreneurs, of other female leaders around you. And there's so many purposes to that. But in this particular space, it's to really give you the opportunity to dive deep within that relationship. There's something about the power of building that one-on-one relationship, or, to finding your business bestie or group of, women that you can let your hair down with and be honest with the challenges or opportunities that you deal with, whether it's in your business or in your organization. And so I do think that it's important that not only are you cultivating relationships within your broader network, but really making sure that you cultivate that inner circle, that small circle of individuals whom you can learn from, who can challenge you, who can hold you accountable. It's what I like to call like your success circle. And of course, your success circle doesn't have to be all women. The other thing that I would say in terms of really executing on your relationship marketing strategy is asking for recommendations. Now, I've done several trainings where I've had women specifically, indicate that that is an area in which they struggle, in which they don't feel as comfortable with. And so I do think that if we take the step back away from, trying to target everybody and asking everybody to give us a recommendation, taking that step back and looking at who's in our little circle here that I just talked about, who's in our success circle, who can vouch for us, who are some of the individuals that we've worked with in the past, whether that be a manager, whether that be a peer, whether that be a client, right? Who can vouch for you, who really has benefited from your knowledge, your expertise, your unique brilliance, who would be willing, more than willing, to say, hey, this is how I worked with such and such, and this is how this person helped me. I think that it's important that as we really think about building relationships and cultivating relationships, that not only are we intentional about serving and about giving and about reaching out and about spending time, but that when the opportunity is available and as it makes sense, that we're asking the people in our network to provide recommendations, and that we are also giving recommendations to, past employees, to clients, to peers, whoever it is. The next tip that you could execute in terms of your relationship marketing strategy is really around embracing your own way of doing it. There's this Kellogg School of Business study that showed that women who tried to network like men, and I'm using air quotes there, actually did worse. In truth, if we really think about it, and the study also proved this, men are socialized from a young age to understand that friendships and leverage go hand in hand. There's a lot more encouragement for our male counterparts around what it means to build relationships, whereas for women, that's often not the case. And so many of us end up having to learn how to network, be it, through our professional environments, or maybe if we're in school and we're in sports or we're doing activities, we're networking without even realizing that we're networking. But oftentimes it's just, for the majority of us, it's not this natural thing. Earlier in my career, I started in corporate America as a recruiter. And I remember going to recruiting events, and the individuals who were in leadership at the time were males. They were male recruiters. And so I learned how to recruit from that perspective. And I remember my first career fair being completely and totally clueless on what to do, what to say, how I was going to describe the organization, how I was going to describe a job. And so I kind of sat back and I watched my two male leaders, really work the table, if you will, and then followed up by working the room and networking with other individuals who were also recruiters at that particular career fair. And that's where I learned how to, navigate being at a career fair. That's how I learned to, quote unquote, turn it on. And I don't say that to say that it's a bad thing. I'm just leveraging this experience as that's how I learned how to network. That's how I learned how to work a room, so to speak. So looking back on that experience, while, I learned how to work the room through, watching my male leadership, it took some time for me to really take a step back and identify, well, what's my flow? How do I want to, create excitement about a particular company or a particular job? Or even when I went to networking events, for me, how did I want to show up? What did I want to say? And what impression did I want to leave on individuals? And so for some of us, we don't necessarily want to be in a big room trying to build relationships over, music or over the crowd speaking. or we don't want to try to build relationships via a virtual networking session and typing in the chat. And so this is where I would encourage you, identify opportunities to create one-on-one situations. If being in crowded spaces, whether that's in person or virtual, is not your thing, that's totally fine. Leverage your own place of comfort and perhaps still attend those things, but identify individuals that you can reach out to on a one-on-one basis. Ask them to do a coffee chat, a virtual coffee chat, or maybe a live coffee chat, and then have those conversations, especially in this time that we're in right now, post-pandemic or on the way out of a pandemic. The key piece here is really around showing up as our authentic self, regardless of what the platform is or regardless of what the medium is. And if your thing is not large crowds, that's okay. Create those one-on-one experiences. And if your thing is large crowds, go for it. But, the advice here is to go for it, but be yourself, show up as yourself, let your light shine, and, let your authenticity come through. Next tip here around your relationship marketing strategy is, while I've been talking about women and I've been talking about, how we can leverage our own natural tendencies to succeed in building relationships and cultivating deeper, meaningful relationships with others, I would also invite you not to leave the men out. And this one, I'm saying this to say, I'm team women networking group. I am team, women everything, right? Every day, all day. But I do think that there is value in ensuring that we are being inclusive with whom we network. It can be very limiting, right? If you only choose to network with a certain demographic. And if you recall what I shared before with that study, is that, studies show that men are naturally socialized, they're naturally good at networking. And so I would invite you to, ensure that you are cultivating relationships with men who are in the same space as you or in complementary spaces as well, for the sake of a couple different things. One, diversifying your network. Certainly, creating opportunities where you can learn from them. And then three, maybe even opportunities for mentorship and for guidance. And again, it's not to say that you can't get that from the women. I absolutely believe that you can, but I do also think that it doesn't hurt to learn from others where this is a natural gift for them. I am intentional about having, male coaches, whether they're leadership coaches, whether they're sales coaches, consultants, you name it, and cultivating relationships with them. And being in spaces in which they are for the purpose of, one, me building that relationship, and two, for me observing. It doesn't mean that I have to copy or, imitate anything that they're doing, but I do take tips away from that experience as well. So it's part of my own development. And so just to recap here in terms of the tips for executing your relationship marketing strategy, first and foremost, go into this with the mindset of, I want to help serve others. I want to add values to others. And so the intentionality and the listening and coming from a place of curiosity when you do reach out to individuals, so that you can have a give or that you can provide them with something before even asking for anything in return. The other tip here was to focus on who you know first, right? If studies show that 600 people, that's 600 opportunities to build and cultivate relationships. My advice here would be, choose about 10 people on a monthly basis that you just reach out to, and you can reach out to them via email, via phone call, via LinkedIn, if that's the only way that you have access to them. But just reach out. Hey, how's it going? Would love to touch base with you and learn more about what it is that you're doing, and inviting them to a virtual coffee or in-person coffee now that we can go back outside. Part B of that, I would say, making sure that you are intentional about creating a community of other women business owners, other entrepreneurs or leaders that you can tap into, whether that be for support, whether that be as your cheerleaders, for mentorship. Next one, I would definitely recommend, getting comfortable with asking for recommendations, but also being willing to give recommendations, especially for those whom you have interacted with or those who have provided you really, really great service, or you've provided them really, really great service. And then, however you like to build relationships, whether that's in large groups, virtually in person, or whether that's on one, identifying what works best for you and taking action. That is the key piece here. You got to take action. And then lastly, making sure that you're not leaving the men out and that you're creating a network that is inclusive and ensuring that you are also building relationships with men just as much as you are building relationships with other female powerhouses in your space. So with that recap, the last thing that I'll leave you with is to really focus on relationships, not connections or who can do what for you. Build your inner circle of fellow female and male business owners and create a really mutual beneficial relationship with them. This, believe it or not, will spiral into more and more connections and more impact. If you're interested in learning more about how to really leverage your relationship marketing and create a strategy that works for you, and want tools and resources to really up level and upskill your leadership, I invite you to get on the wait list for She Leads Network, which is being completely redone and will be released soon. You can actually jump on the wait list at sheleadsnetwork, all one word, .com/waitlist. Again, that's sheleadsnetwork.com/waitlist. And you will be the first to know once we release the details of the revised and renewed She Leads Network. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a review. It goes a long way in helping other women CEOs and leaders find the show. And so I greatly appreciate and thank you in advance for the rating and the review. With that, I will chat with you next week. Until then, have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of She Leads Now. Be sure to join us next week for another transformative discussion to help you grow, develop, and embody the courageous leader you've always been. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get alerts when new episodes drop, and join us for our next Leaders Lounge meetup on Zoom. Details and dates for future sessions are included in the show notes below, so take a look there or head over to SabineGideon.com/lounge to register and hold your spot for the next session. Again, that's SabineGideon.com/lounge to grab your spot. Excited to connect with you all inside the lounge. Talk to you soon.